The morning mist hugged the treetops of the Ituri rainforest like a mother clinging to her children before a storm. Deep in the heart of the Congo, in a village carved from the green jaws of the jungle, young Mobali woke to the cries of his sister. A shrill sound, not of fear but of pain, drifted into the thatch-roofed hut. He jumped from the reed mat, his heart thudding like a war drum. Outside, the earth trembled beneath the boots of uniformed men. Not the old colonizers, but new. Ones born from the same curse. The year was 2005, and yet echoes of the past rattled louder than ever. The Congo, a land blessed with rivers like veins of gold and forests as thick as legends, had never known peace. From the time King Leopold II of Belgium laid claim to it as his personal property in 1885. The land had been bled dry. Over 10 million Congolese died during Leopold's rule, some from disease, many from starvation, most from the whip, the bullet, or the blade. Mobali's village sat atop rich coltan deposits, a mineral essential for smartphones and laptops in distant lands. But for the people of his village, coltan brought no progress. It brought warlords and foreign mercenaries. It brought child soldiers and raped women. It brought misery dressed in camouflage. His sister, Lakey, only 12, was dragged by the arm toward a rusty pickup truck. She screamed, kicked, clawed butt. The soldiers' boys, not much older than Mobali, slapped her into silence. His mother, Kazi, threw herself at the boots of the commander, her hands folded in desperate prayer. He looked at her with dead eyes and shoved the butt of his rifle into her ribs. Mobali watched from the edge of the forest, helpless. He knew what would happen to Lakey. Everyone did. In these parts, girls were taken to cook or clean. The words used to mask the horrors inflicted on their young bodies. Mobali clenched his fists. He was only 15, but his childhood had ended long ago, decades earlier. Another boy had stood in the same spot, watching Belgian officers take his father away for failing to meet the rubber quota. His name had been Itoka. They had returned his father's severed hand a week later, a common punishment for villages that failed the brutal extraction targets. Itoka survived, barely, and passed his stories down to his son, who passed them to his son until they reached Mobali. The rubber, the ivory, the minerals all extracted through fire and blood. Under Leopold, Congolese were mutilated, enslaved, and hunted like animals. Villages were burned to force compliance. The force public, the king's private army, enforced terror with a mechanical precision. Even children were not spared. The Congo River, once a giver of life, flowed heavy with corpses. And though independence came in 1960, the ghosts remained. Mobali ran to the elder's hut. Old man Tandu sat carving a figurine out of ebony wood, the lines on his face deeper than the Congo River. They took Lakey, Mobali said, breathless. Tandu did not flinch. Like they took your cousin. Like they took my daughter. The wheel spins, boy. The wheel spins, but we must stop it. Mobali shouted, "Tand." You looked up slowly. They tried. Lumumba. Tried? Do you know what happened to him? Mobali nodded. Patrice Lumumba, the young independence hero, the first prime minister. He had dared to speak of unity, of African dignity. Within months, he was hunted, captured, and handed over to his enemies. They tortured him, executed him, and dissolved his body in acid. The West feared a Congo in control of its own destiny. Lumumba became a ghost too, one that whispered freedom into ears like Mobali's. We have no guns, Tandu said. No allies, no power. We have rage, Mobali said. And rage can be fire. That night he snuck out. He walked 4 miles under the jungle canopy, past rebel checkpoints and army outposts, past child miners with gray dust in their lungs. He found the resistance in the hills near Bukavu, a ragtag group of former students, runaway soldiers and old men with machetes. They were not saints, but they wanted what Mobali wanted, a Congo not carved up like meat on a colonial table. He trained. He fought. He learned to shoot, to hide, to survive. But war changes you. With every bullet he fired, Mobali felt part of his soul retreat deeper into the shadows, and yet he stayed. Because Lakey never came back. Because his mother died of heartbreak. Because no one else would stand for his village. The years blurred. Governments changed, warlords rose and fell, minerals were sold, and the people remained chained. Not always with iron, but with hunger, with fear, with silence. One rainy night, Mobali and his unit raided a government convoy transporting coltan. They didn't want the cargo. They wanted to make a point. But among the crates, they found something worse. Children locked in cages like animals. Some were 5, 6 years old. One boy had no tongue. Another had whip scars across his back. Mobali collapsed to his knees. He thought of Atoka, of Leopold, of Lumumba, of Lakey. The wheel still spun. But maybe, just maybe, they could slow it. They released the children. Some ran, some just cried. That night, Mobali made a vow. He would not stop until the ghosts of the Congo were buried, not in shame, but in honor. Years passed. The world turned oblivious. The devices built from Congolese blood got smaller, faster, smarter. The companies grew richer. The reports came and went. Human Rights Watch, the UN, CNN. But nothing changed on until the footage of Mobali's rescue leaked. A boy with a scarred face, carrying a limp child out of a jungle prison, stared into the camera. "We are not your slaves," he said in broken French. "We are not your mines." The video spread. Protests erupted. Boycotts were called, for the first time in a century. People asked where their luxury came from. And behind the noise, in a forest clearing, Mobali stood with a new generation. Girls with books, boys with drums, elders with memory. He did not trust peace. Not yet, but he believed in the seed. And sometimes that was enough.